I am staring at my wife right now, and I barely recognize her. Grace is sitting at our dining table surrounded by legal folders, her fingers tracing the edge of a document with a focus I have never seen before. There is something different in her eyes tonight. Something cold, something determined. The woman who used to cry over sad movies, who forgave every slight with a gentle smile, is planning something. And from the way her jaw is set, I know my family is about to face consequences they never saw coming. She looks up at me and says quietly, "They thought I was weak, Dawson. They made a terrible mistake." Before we dive into how my family underestimated the wrong woman, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you have ever dealt with toxic family members who crossed the line, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story shows exactly what happens when kindness meets its breaking point. Trust me, you will want to see how this unfolds. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. 4 years ago, I married the love of my life. Grace and I met at a charity event where I was doing pro bono architectural work for a community center, and she was volunteering as a teacher's aide. She had this warmth about her that drew people in. Kids adored her. She taught kindergarten at a public school and loved every chaotic minute of it. Grace grew up without much. Her parents died in a car accident when she was 7, and her aunt raised her in a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. She worked her way through college, never complained, never asked for handouts. That is who she is. Humble, kind, genuine. I come from a different world. My father, Thomas, built a successful commercial real estate business from the ground up. We lived in a gated community, went to private schools, the whole deal. When Dad passed away 2 years into my marriage, he left behind a substantial estate. My mother, Helen, became the executor, and my older sister, Patricia, well, she has always been the type to live off family money rather than earn her own. Patricia went through a messy divorce 5 years back and has been financially dependent on Mom ever since. Grace and I were happy. We had a cozy apartment downtown close to her school and my office. We spent weekends cooking together, going on hikes, visiting farmers markets. Simple things. Grace never cared about my family's wealth. She never asked about inheritance or trust funds. She just wanted us to build a life together. And we did. At least I thought we did. But looking back now, I can see when things started to shift. It was subtle at first. The first real sign came about 8 months after Dad died. Mom invited us to dinner at her house. It was supposed to be a casual Sunday meal, but the moment we walked in, I felt the temperature drop. Patricia was already there, sprawled on the couch with a glass of wine, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up when we arrived. "Oh, you brought Greta," Patricia said, not even glancing at Grace. "It is Grace," I corrected, annoyed. "Right, sorry. So many names to remember these days," Patricia replied with a smirk. Throughout dinner, Mom and Patricia kept bringing up Priscilla, my ex-girlfriend from college. Priscilla came from old money, went to the same country club as my family, spoke 3 languages. They talked about her like she was some golden standard I had foolishly abandoned. Remember when Priscilla organized that fundraiser gala, raised over $100,000? Mom said, her eyes drifting to Grace, as if measuring her against some invisible scale. Grace smiled politely and tried to engage in conversation about her students, but every time she spoke, Patricia would interrupt or change the subject. At one point, Mom literally talked over Grace mid-sentence to ask me about a project at work. It was like my wife was not even in the room. On the drive home, I apologized. Grace squeezed my hand and said, "It is okay. They just need time to get used to me." But I saw the hurt in her eyes. I should have done more then. I should have set boundaries. I did not. Over the next 6 months, it got worse. Mom started calling Grace with requests. Could she come over and help with the garden? Could she pick up groceries since she was closer to the store? Could she cook a meal for some guests? Mom was having Grace being Grace, said yes every time. She wanted to be accepted. She wanted to prove she belonged. Patricia started borrowing money. First it was $200 for car repairs, then $500 for a vet bill. Each time she promised to pay Grace back. She never did. When I asked Patricia about it, she laughed it off. "Come on, Dawson, it is not like you two are hurting for cash. Stop being cheap." Then came Mom's birthday. Patricia called to tell me about the party. "Just you," she said. "Mom wants it to be family only this year." Grace's family, I shot back. "You know what I mean. Blood family. Do not make this difficult." I refused to go without Grace. Mom called me later furious. "You have changed, Dawson. That woman has turned you against your own family. Your father would be so disappointed." That line hit me hard. But Grace, ever patient, told me not to fight with them. They are your blood. Do not let me come between you and your mother. But I could see what it was doing to her. Grace lost weight. She had trouble sleeping. I would wake up at 3 in the morning and find her sitting in the kitchen staring at nothing. When I asked, she would just smile and say she was fine. But she was not fine, and I was furious at my family for doing this to her. It all came to a head on a Tuesday afternoon in late September. I had left a box of old project files at Mom's house months ago and needed to retrieve them for a client meeting. I drove over without calling ahead. The front door was unlocked, so I let myself in. That is when I heard their voices coming from the living room, Mom and Patricia. They were talking, and something about their tone made me freeze in the hallway. "The plan is working," Patricia said. "Greta is cracking. I can see it. She barely speaks at family dinners anymore." Mom laughed. It was a cold, calculated sound I had never heard from her before. "Good. When Dawson finally files for divorce, everything will fall back into place. Your father's estate will not end up in the hands of some outsider." My blood turned to ice. Patricia continued, "Did you talk to the lawyer about the will? We need to make sure she gets nothing." "Already handled," Mom replied. "The will has been adjusted. Dawson inherits, of course, but if he divorces within 5 years of your father's death, the estate goes into a family trust that I control. She will walk away with nothing, and Dawson will see that she was never worth it." I could not breathe. I stood there hidden just around the corner, listening to my own mother and sister plot against my wife, against our marriage. "What if he does not divorce her?" Patricia asked. "He will," Mom said confidently. "We have made her life miserable enough. She is not strong. She will leave, or she will push him to leave her. Either way, we win. And if that does not work, then we keep going. I have already spoken to the principal at her school. One more complaint about her performance, and she will be put on probation. I have contacts, Patricia. We can make her professional life just as unbearable as her personal life." Patricia laughed. "You are ruthless, Mom. I love it." "I am protecting this family," Mom said coldly. "That girl is a leech. She saw an opportunity and took it, but she is not clever enough to outmaneuver us." I could not listen anymore. I stepped into the living room, and they both turned startled. "Dawson," Mom said, quickly composing herself. "We did not know you were here." "Clearly," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Patricia tried to play it off. "We were just talking. You are overreacting." "Overreacting? You just admitted to sabotaging my wife's career, to manipulating a will, to systematically trying to destroy my marriage." Mom stood up, her expression hardening. "Do not take that tone with me. I am your mother. Everything I have done is to protect you from that woman. Her name is Grace," I shouted. "And she has done nothing but try to love this family. She has been patient and kind and forgiving, while you two have treated her like garbage." "She is using you," Mom said. "She wants the money. That is all she has ever wanted. Grace has never asked me for a dime. She works her own job. She pays her own bills. You are the ones obsessed with money." Patricia stood up, her face flushed. "You are being naive. Once she gets her hands on the inheritance, she will leave you. We are trying to save you from that." I laughed bitterly. "Save me? You are destroying me. And you know what the worst part is? I trusted you. I defended you to Grace when she told me she felt unwelcome. I made excuses for you." Mom crossed her arms. "If you refuse to see reason, then you leave me no choice. Either you end this marriage, or I will make sure she regrets ever meeting you." "Then I guess you better get ready for a fight," I said. "Because I am not leaving her, and if you come after her again, I will cut you out of my life completely." Mom's eyes narrowed. "You will regret this. That will your father left. There are conditions, Dawson, conditions that will leave you with nothing if you cross me." I did not respond. I just turned and walked out. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. How had I been so blind? How had I not seen what they were doing? When I got home, Grace was in the kitchen making tea. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked quietly. I broke down. I told her everything, every word I had heard, every cruel plan. I apologized over and over for not protecting her, for not seeing it sooner. Grace listened without interrupting. When I finally finished, I expected tears, anger, something, but she just stood there calm and composed. Then she walked into our bedroom and came back with a large storage box. She set it on the table and opened it. Inside were folders, documents, printed emails, audio files labeled with dates. I have known for 3 months, she said softly. I stared at her, stunned. What? How? She pulled out a printed email. Patricia left her laptop open at your mother's house. I saw an email exchange with a lawyer about modifying a will. At first I thought it was a mistake, but then I started paying closer attention. Grace had done her homework. She had quietly gathered evidence like a detective. She had consulted her own attorney, a man named Marcus Thornton, who specialized in estate law and family disputes. She had traced the modifications to Dad's will and discovered the original version, the one he had actually signed 6 years ago. The original will left 60% of his estate to me, 20% to a charitable foundation he had established, and 20% to Mom. Patricia was not mentioned at all, because in Dad's words, she had never contributed to the family business and had squandered every opportunity he had given her. But the version Mom had filed after his death was different. It gave her control over the entire estate, with vague stipulations about my inheritance being contingent on her approval. It had been notarized a month after Dad died. Grace had hired a handwriting analyst who confirmed the signature on the second will was forged. Grace also had recordings. She had left her phone recording in her purse during family dinners. She had captured conversations where Mom and Patricia openly discussed their strategy to break us up, but the most damning evidence was financial. Grace had traced transactions from Dad's charitable foundation into Mom's personal accounts. Over $250,000 had been quietly siphoned off over the past 2 years. Why did you not tell me? I asked, still reeling. Because I needed to be sure, she said, and I needed to have everything in place before we acted. If I had told you earlier, you might have confronted them and they would have destroyed evidence or changed tactics. I needed them to feel safe, to keep talking. I looked at my wife with new eyes. This was not the soft-spoken kindergarten teacher I thought I knew. This was someone who had been underestimated her entire life and had learned to use that to her advantage. What happens now? I asked. She closed the box. Now we make them pay. 2 weeks later, we were sitting in a courtroom. Marcus Thornton had filed a petition to invalidate the fraudulent will and restore the original. He had also filed a separate lawsuit against Mom and her lawyer for forgery and embezzlement. Mom and Patricia walked in looking confident. They had their own lawyer, a middle-aged man who looked bored and underprepared. They thought this was going to be a quick dismissal. They were wrong. Marcus opened with the original will authenticated and notarized 6 years prior. He presented the testimony of the notary who had witnessed Dad's signature. Then he showed the second will, the one filed after Dad's death, and pointed out the inconsistencies. The notary listed on the second will had retired and moved to Florida 2 years before Dad died. It was impossible for her to have notarized anything. Mom's lawyer stammered. He had no defense. Marcus then played the audio recordings. The courtroom was silent, as Mom and Patricia's voices filled the room, casually discussing their scheme to drive me toward divorce, their manipulation of the will, their plans to sabotage Grace's career. The judge, a stern older woman with gray hair pulled into a tight bun, listened without expression. When the recordings ended, she turned to Mom. "Do you have anything to say, Mrs. Carter?" Mom tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "I was trying to protect my son. By committing fraud," the judge asked coldly. Patricia jumped in desperate. "That woman manipulated him. She is a gold digger." Marcus stood. "Your Honor, my client has provided her own financial records. She has never accessed Mr. Carter's accounts. She maintains her own income and savings. In contrast, Miss Patricia Carter has borrowed over $3,400 from Mrs. Grace Carter over the past year and has not repaid a cent." The judge looked at Patricia, unimpressed. "Is that true?" Patricia went pale. "I was going to pay her back." When the judge asked sharply, Patricia had no answer. Marcus continued. He showed the financial records from Dad's charity foundation. $250,000 had been transferred into Mom's personal account in increments over 2 years. Mom claimed it was for administrative costs, but there were no receipts, no documentation, nothing to justify the transfers. The judge took less than an hour to deliberate. She returned and declared the second will null and void. She ordered the original will to be executed immediately. She also referred Mom and her lawyer to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges related to forgery and embezzlement. Mom collapsed into her chair. Patricia tried to reach for her, but Mom pushed her away, glaring at me across the room like I had betrayed her. I felt nothing. The following week, Marcus filed a civil suit on Grace's behalf to recover the money Patricia owed. Patricia had no assets. Her car was leased. Her apartment was rented. The court ordered her wages to be garnished. She would be paying Grace back in small increments for years. The embezzlement investigation moved forward. Mom was forced to sell the family house to cover legal fees and repay the charity foundation. Patricia's insurance fraud case, something Grace had also uncovered during her research, was reopened. It turned out Patricia had filed a false claim years ago, and the statute of limitations had not expired. Their friends, the people they socialized with, at the country club and charity galas, distanced themselves. In their circles, reputation was everything. Being exposed as frauds and thieves was social suicide. Mom tried to call me once. I let it go to voicemail. She left a long, rambling message about how she had only wanted what was best for me, how she had sacrificed so much, how I was breaking her heart. I deleted it without finishing. Patricia sent a letter. It was half apology, half accusation. She said Grace had poisoned me against my family, that I was abandoning the people who raised me. I threw it away. Grace never gloated. She never celebrated. She just quietly went back to teaching her kindergartners, grading papers at the kitchen table, planning lessons. The only difference was that she smiled more. She slept better. The weight she had been carrying was gone. As for me, I finally understood what Dad had seen in Grace that Mom and Patricia never could. Grace was not weak. She was strategic. She was patient. And she was stronger than any of us had given her credit for. 6 months have passed since the court ruling. Grace and I moved to a small coastal town about 2 hours away. We bought a house near the ocean, nothing extravagant, just a place where we can hear the waves at night and watch the sunrise from our porch. At first I struggled. Losing my family, even a toxic one, left a hole. There were nights when I could not sleep, when I lay awake, wondering if I had made the right choice. Grace never pushed me to feel a certain way. She just listened when I needed to talk and gave me space when I needed silence. Slowly, I started to heal. I realized that family is not just about blood. It is about loyalty. It is about showing up when things get hard. Grace had shown me more love and loyalty in 4 years than my mother and sister had in my entire life. We used the money from Dad's charitable foundation the way he intended. We established a scholarship fund for kids who lost their parents, young kids like Grace, who had to fight for every opportunity. The first round of scholarships went out last month. 15 students received funding for college. Grace cried when she read their applications. She said it felt like Dad's legacy was finally being honored. As for Mom and Patricia, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Mom is living in a small condo now, working part-time at a boutique to make ends meet. Patricia is still paying off her debts and working an administrative job she hates. They tried reaching out a few times, sending letters that were part apology, part justification. I have not responded, not because I hate them, but because I have moved on. Forgiveness does not mean letting toxic people back into your life. It means releasing the hold they have over you. Grace taught me that. She never wanted revenge. She just wanted justice. She wanted them to face consequences for their actions, and they did. One evening, we are sitting on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky is streaked with orange and pink, and the air smells like salt and sand. Grace has her head on my shoulder, and we are just existing together in comfortable silence. "Do you ever regret it?" she asks quietly. "Regret what? Losing your family? Cutting them off?" I think about it for a moment. "No. I only regret not protecting you sooner." She lifts her head and looks at me. "You did protect me. You trusted me. That is the greatest gift you could have given me." I squeeze her hand. "You are the strongest person I know." She smiles, that soft, genuine smile I fell in love with. "I am not strong, Dawson. I just refuse to break. And that is the truth, is it not? Strength is not about being loud or aggressive. It is not about fighting every battle head on. Sometimes strength is quiet. It is patient. It is gathering your evidence, building your case, and waiting for the right moment to act. Grace did not let them see her coming. She let them underestimate her, and that was their biggest mistake. I think about the people who assume kindness is weakness. The people who mistake patience for passivity. They are always shocked when the person they have been underestimating finally stands up, and by then it is too late. Some battles are not won by shouting. They are won by patience, evidence, and the quiet strength of someone who refuses to break. Have you ever had to stand up to toxic family members who thought they could control you? Drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about justice, boundaries, and finding strength in unexpected places. Share this with anyone who needs a reminder that kindness is not weakness and patience is not permission. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that you deserve to be surrounded by people who value and respect you. Take care of yourselves out there.